welcome back to the 6th out of 7 part of this mammoth series of films about how to do your English exam. So here we go. This is moving on to section B. It's the writing section, everybody's favourite section. And this is what you saw in your mock exam paper, and in the real exam it will look very similar to this. 1 second. Grab it. It says, okay, section B writing, answer both questions in this section, but look at the timings here please. 25 minutes on section 6, 35 minutes on question 7. That's because this question, question 6, is only worth 16 marks, whereas the other one is worth 24. Now I'm hoping that you've got an hour left at this point. If you're getting to this section and you've only got half an hour left or 20 minutes left, you're going to struggle to get that C grade and to get a higher mark. Right, so you've got to be disciplined in section A, in the reading bit, to make sure that you give yourself a full chunk of time to do this section of the paper. Okay? If you haven't given yourself this time and you sat there in the exam and you've got half an hour, get a move on. Alright, because you've got, there's loads of marks available here. Okay, the question from our mocks was, a place can appear to be very different if you visit it at different times of year. Choose a place that you know well and describe it at 2 different times of year for a travel website. And then helpfully, AQA again tell us to remember to write about a place in case you've instantly forgotten what you were told, in which case you probably are going to struggle in this exam, and write to describe. I mean, they're just trying to be kind to us, aren't they, giving us a little reminder. Now, obviously, that's not, just because that was the question in the mock and in a past paper, it's not going to be the one, it's definitely not going to be the one that you get in your real exam. But we do know, we're informed by AQA, that the question is going to be along the lines of an inform question, so writing to inform, or an explain question, or a describe question. And at the end of this film, you'll see a bunch of sample questions that you can answer. Okay, so you need to know about how to do each of these things. I'm not going to go into this in detail now, but you need to enter this exam with some clear ideas about how you write to inform, how you write to explain, and how you write to describe. Okay? Right, how do we approach it then? Okay, first thing you need to do is make like a pelican and flap. Okay, now what does that mean? Flap stands for form, language, audience, and purpose. And the first thing that you should do when you look at your question, you don't get any choice in this question by the way, you have to answer question 6, is think about these ideas: form, language, audience, and purpose. Now what does that mean? Form means that you establish what the text is that you're going to have to produce. Is it a speech? Is it an article? Is it a radio show? Is it a newspaper article? What is the form that you're going to be asked to write in? Now in this case, it's a piece of descriptive writing, isn't it? I suppose you'd say. It's a sort of bit of descriptive writing. It's not a letter or an article or anything in particular like that. Hello, miss.
Are you practising?
No, I'm doing.
Oh,
don't worry, you come in, get a cup of coffee, it's fine. No, you're very welcome. I'll just carry on if you don't mind. Right, so that's the form. A sort of short piece of writing. You've only got 25 minutes to do it. Language. Okay, for this instance, we need descriptive language, don't we? Because we're writing to describe. Okay, so we're looking for language which is descriptive, and you need to know what that is. I'm not going to teach you that here, but you know, you need to be aware of a few things that you can do to write to describe. Audience is, well, it's quite a wide audience here, isn't it? It's readers of a travel website. I don't actually know any readers of a travel website, nothing springs to mind, but you're looking for a sort of general readership, aren't you? You're not going to be writing with loads of slang for a teenage audience. You're not going to be writing very, very formally for your head teacher or for the Prime Minister, but just something sort of, a sort of general audience. Purpose, obviously, then, is to describe. Okay, so when you get the question, you can write this down on the paper. FLAP, form, language, audience, and purpose. I mean, don't spend ages writing all this out, but just note that down. What is the form, language, audience, and purpose? Okay, now I'm going to show you the mark scheme, right, the official mark scheme. But again, I think it's kind of limited in its value sometimes for students, because obviously it's written for adults and it's written for people who are approaching the exam from a very different place that you are. But I'll show you the top band and pick out a couple of things. This is to get full marks. It's marked for 2 different assessment objectives. So anyway, To get 10 out of 10 for one part of it, you need to show clarity of thought, communicate with success. It needs to be a good piece of writing. So what is a successful piece of writing? I'll think about that in a moment. Engages the reader, clearly communicates. Look at this, detailed descriptive ideas. They're looking for you to develop ideas. Okay, so sticking on one idea and going into detail. What else? Linguistic features as appropriate to purpose, might be simile, metaphor, that sort of thing for descriptive writing. Vocabulary, uses vocabulary effectively. Paragraphs, and a variety of structural features, paragraphs of different lengths and things like that. You might have a single word paragraph. So that's that. And then it talks to you a little bit on the mark scheme, so the examiner will see this, about the sort of things that they're looking for in terms of success. Understanding they're describing a specific place, real or imagined. Think about that. You don't have to tell the truth in this thing. You don't need to describe a real place. You can imagine an entirely bizarre and made-up place if you want to. Nobody really cares about the place that you're writing about. Sounds a bit harsh, but it's true. All we care about is the quality of your writing for this. I'll leave this on for you to pause. You can have a look at it if you'd like to, note a couple of things down, but then I'll move on. Right, the second thing here is about the kind of technical aspects of your language, particularly punctuation, spelling and sentences. So look, to get full marks, clear and successful, which is 6 out of 6 for this bit would be full marks. So if you get 10 for the first mark scheme and 6 for the second mark scheme, you get full marks. Sentences are accurate, variety of sentence forms to good effect. I'll show you in a bit what that looks like. Accurate spelling of more ambitious words. Okay, range of punctuation also. Right, so don't overcomplicate it though. Writing is not as complex as sometimes we make it out to be. Okay, and I think this is a useful way to look at it. How do you do good quality writing? What are the basic ingredients that you need to be successful? Something along these lines. Good writing has really strong ideas and content. If you're not writing about anything interesting, you may as well not write. Okay? You've got to have some time thinking before you start about what ideas and what content you're going to write about. Okay? It's got to be relevant to the question and it's got to be interesting. Think about your poor examiner. They've got 600 odd of these things to mark. They're bored out of their brains probably. And you've got to entertain them. Give them some original ideas. Secondly, you've got to choose the best words that you can for the purpose you're trying to fulfill. So descriptive words for descriptive writing. In that I put in things like metaphor and simile and techniques and things like that. Language techniques. So ideas, words, sentences. Your sentences have got to be accurate and they've got to show a bit of variety. There's another film on Charwell Online you can watch to help you achieve that. There's two about sentence variety. And finally, your paragraphs and structure. If you don't write in paragraphs, you won't get a C grade. If you do write in paragraphs, you've got much more chance of getting a decent grade. And if you write in interestingly formed paragraphs, if you've reflected and doing quality paragraphs, again, I'm not going to teach you about that now, but just point that out to you, then you're going to do really well. It'll come out in the success criteria a bit. So try and remember that. Think about that as you go into your exam. Okay, this sort of pyramid. Ideas, words, sentences, paragraphs. Right, here we go.